We have somebody on our phones right now who's an extraordinary voice in the state of Israel. She is a major anchor on what is the equivalent here of Channel 2, 4, and 7, CBS, NBC, ABC. Well, Israel has Channel 10, and it has Channel 10 News. And the anchor of Channel 10 News is Oshrat Kotler, and she's on our phones from Israel right now. Oshrat, thank you so much for giving us a moment.
Hi, you're welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, but it's really thrilling to talk to you and thrilling to be on the air with someone who has the stature and the standing you do on Israeli television. So, Oshrat, give our viewers a sense. How is the Israeli public? What is the mood now as you close another evening out, day 8 going into day 9 of this offensive? What's the mood?
I must tell you that I admire the Israeli, how do you call it? Excuse me for being a bit tired. And just after 4 hours of constant television anchoring, so my English is at the moment I have a few blackouts.
Absolutely, you take your time.
The Israeli public is so strong, is so definite to go on and live under this constant attacks. It's incredible. People are just going through their lives. They're going to concerts. They're going to festivals. They're going to the beach. They're going to swimming pools. They're going on vacation, and they just don't care about the bombs or the rockets of Hamas, mainly because of the protection of the defense system, the extraordinary defense system that we gain here. And actually today we just published a poll, a public opinion poll, which was quite surprising because more than 70% of the public in Israel is not willing to go into a ceasefire. I know the Prime Minister and the State of Israel had wisely decided to join the Egyptian offer for ceasefire this morning. We held the fire. And what happened next is that Hamas didn't obey, of course, as you probably know already. I'm not sure there is a way to end it without thousands of casualties, but this is the mode in Israel at the moment of the majority of the public.
Oshrat, it's almost as if, it's a straw that breaks the camel's back. It's as if Israel has endured this kind of barrage for so long that they're out of patience now, and not out of anger, not out of enmity, not out of some kind of vicious desire for any kind of reprisal or punishment. Israelis simply want the government of Israel to put an end to this kind of. It's more than harassment, by the way. And Oshrat, here in America, it almost is as if the American media feels that because Israelis aren't dying, it's the Palestinians who are suffering. Many Americans don't have an understanding of the extent to which you live in terror, whether you're worried or not, when you hear sirens go off and you have to go into a bomb shelter. So I understand what is now driving the Israeli mood. At the same time, your concern that it may not be possible to put an end to it is something I hear all the time from expert after expert. And I guess what I'm asking you is, as you see this from behind an anchor's desk, what is the political climate in Israel? What does Netanyahu say? What are his real options? What are the challenges from Avigdor Lieberman? And how do you expect it to play out in the next week or so?
What is going to happen this night is that the Israeli army is going to harshen its attacks on Gaza because Hamas didn't stand to the Egyptian offer. The next 2 or 3 days will be days that the army will try to destroy the rocket firing places, which is underground, and most of the time Hamas places them, above or under civilian neighborhoods. So all civilians from northern Gaza were asked to leave their houses. And so if Hamas will not negotiate with the Egyptian effort and will not come to a ceasefire, the army at the moment is willing to go forward with the army plan to not only bomb Gaza from the air, but to bring in the troops. We don't think it will happen in the next 2 or 3 days because Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister, is still giving Hamas a chance, to come to a ceasefire, to a long ceasefire, and we are all praying that something will happen. It's a very difficult situation for Prime Minister Netanyahu because, as I told you before, the majority of the Israelis don't wish to stop the attacks at this moment, even if it says that they will have to go on living like this, and it's a nightmare to live like this, going every minute or every 10 minutes or every hour to a bomb shelter. This is the way we all live here, from the south to the north. But the not only the public opinion, but also voices inside the government are calling Netanyahu and the army to harshen the pressure on Hamas, not mentioning conquering the Gaza Strip as a whole. So the pressure on Prime Minister is very, very hard. But I must say that his restraint at the moment is very impressive.
That's a fascinating analysis. Oshrat, you were on the air for what, 4 hours straight?
Yes, we broadcast almost every day. In the last week, we became a sort of an Israeli CNN. We broadcast from 6 o'clock in the morning to 12 at midnight or after 1 o'clock after midnight, constant, because the situation here is like every hour something happens, sometimes every couple of minutes something happens.
Look, I want to compliment you, and it's extraordinary what you are doing as a public service. Look, Channel 10 is, as I said before, one of the major news channels, major channels on Israeli television. And when you describe yourself and the programming that you devoted during this crisis, it is really spectacular. I wanted to know what you feel the Israeli view, how does the Israeli viewer relate to you and your colleagues on Channel 10?
Oh, we get lots of, there's no other word than love from our audience. Really, they do appreciate what we do for them. We do appreciate that they do appreciate that we leave our families. I have 2 young daughters, and they stay night after night alone at home because I'm a single parent. They're very brave. Most of the time they go to the shelter alone, and always I'm texting them during the sirens. It's not simple, and the audience know how to appreciate that. I have to go. I'm not only behind the desk. I also broadcast from Sderot, from the south of Israel for long hours with the constant bombardment. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job, but it is something you do because you believe in it. And the audience does know how to appreciate it very much.
Well, I am thrilled for you. How long have you been a journalist?
Too long, almost 22 years.
Well, we have a picture of you up. It looks like you must have started when you were 7. Listen, Oshrat.
Thank you. No, I'm quite old already. I'm almost 50. But thank you for the compliment.
Well,
it's the news, maybe, probably.
Oshrat, is the 2-state solution dead? Because here in America, we're seeing a lot of people write and speak that, in essence, the door has closed, the window has closed, whatever the metaphor is. When you look at it as a journalist who is covering this both politically and in terms of the diplomatic scene, what do the people you speak to say? What's the answer?
No. The 2-state solution is definitely not dead. The majority of the civilians, the people in Israel, do believe in this solution. The thing is, is, I think, since 2000, since Prime Minister Barak last offered to the Palestinians, there is a big crisis in terms of the feeling that Israelis feel that they don't have any partner on the other side. I don't know if this is true, because I do believe President Abu Mazen, is a serious man, and I do believe in his intention, in his real intention, to have a peace solution for this crisis. So I don't really know if it's the Israeli internal politics. As I told you, 70% of the people right now are willing to go on fighting Hamas, but it doesn't mean that they don't wait for somebody rational. They don't wait for Abu Mazen. They don't wait for the Arab world to come in to interfere and make this happen, because, the plan is clear for everybody. Everybody knows, including, I think, Prime Minister Netanyahu. We all know the map. We all know the borderlines. We all know that we will have to do some concession over Jerusalem. Everybody knows that. It's just a matter of the question how many people will have to die before this has happened. I think the Israeli civilians are tired of this ongoing war year after year. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. And we are waiting for leaders, both sides, in the Israeli side and in the Palestinian side, that will be brave enough to make this plan go. So no, the plan is not dead, because everybody knows that eventually there will be two states.
Okay. Oshrat, I want to ask you, to the extent to which you're comfortable trying to give me an answer. I have heard many people say what you have said, namely, that both sides, both leaders, Bibi Netanyahu, Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas, they both have to be willing to make painful compromises, painful choices. Here in America, Martin Indyke has been on American television the last 2 days, and Oshrat, his message has been this message, that both Bibi Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas would rather maintain the status quo than make the changes, the painful changes necessary that would be necessary for any kind of peace agreement. From your perspective, when you again talk to Israeli diplomats, politicians, Israeli leaders, Israeli thinkers, give me an example of one or two of the painful choices, the painful compromises an Israeli prime minister must be ready to make if there is to be peace between Israel and the Palestinians. One or two examples.
It's very obvious. One example is that Israel will have to compromise over East Jerusalem. It's everybody knows that the Palestinian state must have its capital as Jerusalem, not to mention the holy places. This is a huge compromise to ask from both sides, from Israel to give up control over the Kotel, over the Western Wall, is unthinkable. And on the other side, for the Palestinians to give up control over Al-Aqsa is also unthinkable. There is a solution for that too. There were many solutions for that. That, for example, it would be like the Vatican in Rome, some entity that is above the state. This is one compromise. Both sides, when we reach the point, will have to make. Another compromise is the fact that Israel will have to give up 97 or 98% of the West Bank territories, which means shifting hundreds of thousands of people who live there for 30 or 40 years already. So this is a major compromise from the Israeli side. And I'm not really sure. It's not that Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want to reach there. I am sure he wants to reach there. I think he knows as well that if he will make that compromise, he will no longer be a prime minister in Israel, because the public opinion and the politics will not let him do that. Unfortunately, this is a situation on our side, and I'm not so sure that Abu Mazen is not locked in the same corner. This is why someone has to come up as Prime Minister Menachem Begin, late Prime Minister Menachem Begin over the 70s, and late Prime Minister President Anwar Sadat, and rise above those political considerations. They were leaders, and unfortunately, I don't see anybody rises above the day-to-day politics and the strive to stay in power. This is the problem.
Okay.
If I understand it, this is my analysis.
You say it very well. I'm going to ask you only one more question, and I know you've been up, and you've been on television for so long. You should be giving.
My daughters are waiting for me. So
okay. How many daughters do you have?
I have two daughters, 18 and 14. They didn't see me for a week now.
Okay, Mazal Tov. Okay, the last question. I'll let you go be a mommy. My last question. From all the from the Israelis I speak with, from some of the polls I have seen, the overwhelming majority of Israelis would be willing to make the compromises you just outlined. They're ready to give up the eastern Jerusalem and let it be the capital of a Palestinian state. I don't think they'll give up the Kotel, but they would give up the Temple Mount above it with the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. They'd be willing to make those kind of compromises. I have seen that on the West Bank. It's not about territory that Israelis are unwilling to give up if it were for real peace, and that virtually 80% of the settlers are going to be included in the land swap that will become part of Israel. So although there will be some displacement of Israeli settlers, it will not be hundreds of thousands. That's my sense of where the Israeli public is, that the Israeli public would endorse and support a Jerusalem, East Jerusalem being the capital of the Palestinian state. They could have control.
I agree.
Okay. If that's true, where is the political danger for a Netanyahu? Why would he, as you say, and I've heard this and I believe it's true, I want you to explain it though. Why would Netanyahu suffer politically if the Israeli people would be behind him?
Because the current political system does not allow Netanyahu to move on his own. The current political system in Israel has a coalition inside.
Yes.
Once say that, I should say it's not really correct because it can always, make
a new coalition
government.
Yes.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think I have an intelligent answer for you at the moment. If I would have, maybe I could have been a prime minister, but I can't.
Fair enough. It has been wonderful meeting you through Shalom TV, Oshrat. I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha. I wish your daughters to have a wonderful and safe time. Go be with them, and we'll talk from time to time. Thank you for giving us some time on Shalom TV.
Thank you very much, and Laila Tov, good night.
Laila Tov, Shalom, Shalom.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oshrat Kotler, what a remarkable woman, an anchor. I don't know, I guess she's the Diane Sawyer of Israeli television. Wonderful to have her on.